Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're going to jump right back on Project Ruby, and we've got a lot of sheet metal still to whack off there with a plasma cutter and get all those spot welds cut out and get that thing prepped up for the new quarter panel. So let's just jump right back in there and get right at it. Now we got to do around this wheel well, get all those spot welds. So the plan is, I'm going to take a cutoff wheel on the grinder, and I'm just going to cut right here all the way around. Just barely go through. And then I'll take the plasma cutter, and we'll just torch off this whole thing, and then just take that whole piece out, and then I can get to work in that inside there. Obviously, it's all bent up right here, it's bent up right there, so I have to kind of straighten it just to get to the point where I can actually get the spot welds going. So let me set the camera down, we'll get to cutting and get this piece off here. One way to do it. Okay, got that off there, got the smoke cleared out of the shop, got a little smoky there for a moment, but it looks really good right through here. I just cleaned it out, no damage at all, so all the damage was above it. Little bit of damage right here, we're gonna have to hammer this out. The inner fender well is kind of boogered up right there, and there is a hole, probably where they put a slide hammer or something, who knows, maybe a bolt. And then this is actually still the fender right here. This little line right through here, that is the separation line right there. So it's spot welded up inside there a little bit. So this is still part of the fender. I just cut it off right there so we could get in there and kind of do the sardine can thing on it. So it looks good all along here. You can see how far that dent went in because that's the inner fender well, and it's supposed to be out about here. So we're out to put the porta power in there and push that back where it belongs, hammer that out, get this all straightened up, but it looks pretty good. And it's pretty boogered up back here. You know, you see gigantic holes. So I may get a patch panel off the old one. I think I didn't damage that area, and then we may just section that out and weld a new piece in there altogether. But let me get this lip cut off here, get all these spot welds off. And then we'll just go from there one step at a time, just what we discover, then we'll figure out a way to fix it and deal with it. Then we'll just keep moving down. So it's looking pretty good. When I cut that, nothing jumped again. I was watching very carefully, see if anything released itself, but it looks like the car is sitting pretty flat and it likes what's going on, so that's a good thing. Okay, before I cut this lip off, I want to go ahead and get this dent pushed out and get it squared away because this is adding a little bit of strength here. So that when I push right here, this doesn't bulge out and cause problems later when we try to put it together. So I got the porta power stuck up in there. We're going to go ahead and give it a little push. This particular ram on here doesn't have much oomph. It's very low pushing power. There it goes. Smooth it out once we get that pushed out. It's just an inner fender well, so I'm not going to worry about it too awful much. Got a little dent right here I think I can hammer out. Everything else looks pretty good. Okay, let's see what we can do. I really don't want to put my head up inside there because it's going to be tons of dirt falling out. So I'll try to do it from out here. I'll try it with just the dolly in my hand first. Oh, bangs my knuckles. Let's try the poly hammer. Kind of watching, I can't put my head in there, so I'm just watching where each hammer hit pops it out, so it tells me where I'm aiming. A little better, not perfect, but it looks pretty good. I can live with that, I think. Let me, this is supposed to be pushed out right here a little bit. Let me see if I can get that out. And then we're going to call it. I'll bring you back when I'm done. Okay, I got that pushed out pretty nice. Looks a lot better than it did, that's for sure. Not perfectly smooth, but you know, it is an inner fender well, so I'm not going to stress over it. But it came out really nice. Now the next step is to get this all the way off, and that's going to be fun. I got to lay on my back looking at dirt and drill all the spot welds out. Hopefully we can just, you know, kind of roll it up like we did the other ones, and it comes out without too much trouble. This spot over here is going to take some work too. It's pretty burred up. I think we're going to have to make a piece. We're going to have to cut that piece out. We might be able to salvage it, but I was looking at the old one, and I kind of cut right through that area, so I have a good idea what it's supposed to look like, but I think we can reconstruct it from a new piece of sheet metal, or try to hammer that one back in place and then get it welded up. But first things first, let's go ahead and get this lip off here. I got my mess cleaned up. I got everything put away so we can get right back at it. So it's the only thing, one thing to do is get on the creeper and find all those spot welds and start drilling them out. Okay, 2 hours later. It wasn't horrible. I've certainly done worse overhead work, but that was not fun. Got it all straightened up, wire wheeled, and everything is looking really good. I even spent some time reshaping that. It's in way better condition now. I think we can save all that sheet metal. I've got a little more work to do on that piece right there. It is bent in. You know, when they made this repair, you guys could tell by the body filler, they just pulled it halfway close and then just started blobbing on body filler. So I want to pull all that back in the correct position. I'll use the other side for a gauge and for some measurements, and then we'll get it all pretty much where it belongs, so when we put the skin on, it kind of just falls into place. But that is done, and I am about done for the day. It's been a long one, so we're going to pick this up in the morning. Okay guys, next morning, got my batteries recharged, ready to get right back at it. And we got to keep our foot on the gas because this has to get done. I'm running out of time. So the next step is this piece right here. And this skin, I believe, is spot welded onto the rocker before the skin actually goes on the car, because you normally can't access to get that. Now obviously I cut a huge hole here. I can get all the spot welds. On the other one, I removed the rocker from the skin. So what normally will happen is you'll just come down a certain distance and come across. Now the molding covers all this, and then you just cut that and then you do a butt weld right there, no big deal. But I have the opportunity to actually just remove this all the way down to the spot welds right here, because this comes down, then it's broke over and it goes inside, and there's a bunch of spot welds along there. Now what I can do is I can reach through the hole here and just reach down in there. What I'll do when we put the skin back on, I'll put a couple of sheet metal screws down through there to hold it in place. Then we'll plug a weld with the MIG welder. I can reach my arm through there. I should be able to see no problem. And we'll do a series of plug welds along there to reattach this properly. Then, you know, seam sealer goes inside here, so it's no big deal. And like I said, the molding goes over the top. So that's our next step. Now, we're going to come over to and just kind of cut this and kind of get some of that out of the way. And we're going to lessen this like we did all the others. So it's just a just a kind of flat piece of, you know, 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch wide sheet metal down inside there that we have to remove. So let me get that cut back a little bit, and then once we get some of that cleared away, we have to talk about our problem here. And I knew this was coming. This inner brace here is considerably different than the skin I have. So this is a sedan, and the one I've got came off a hardtop, and the bracing is different because this one has a post and the hardtop doesn't. So this brace is much lighter than the other one. So we're gonna have to think around that a little bit. But let's get this piece off first. Let me whack some of this off here, and then we'll get into start looking at those spot welds we've got to cut. Okay, here you can see the spot welds. I don't know if you guys can notice, but most of them are right at the edge of the sheet metal. It's like they almost missed, which is not good for me because when you're trying to use a spot weld cutter, it kind of wanders over and you start getting too much of the base material. So I'm gonna try to weaken those a little bit and see if we can just kind of bend this up and snap those off, and then all we have to do is just grind it smooth. So let me see what I can do here. I see one or two that are in the middle, so I'm gonna do each one by hand, but you can see like that one's just right on the edge, that one's on the edge. So we should be able to just get some of the stronger ones and then just kind of grab this and bend it up a couple times, snap them off, and then grind the whole thing smooth. So this may go pretty easy. Okay, I already went through with the 1/8 inch drill bit and kind of just drilled a little divot like we talked about earlier. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot more fun pushing straight down drilling than laying on your back, pushing straight up, having it coming back in your face. So we're just gonna go and weaken these, and I'm gonna lean the cutter in this way so it cuts more on the sheet metal we're trying to get off. This shouldn't take long. Okay, there's a spot weld back here that I can't really get to, so we're gonna have to try to get this to break into two so I have something to grab a hold of there we go, kind of. All right. Woohoo! You gotta love it when it goes like that. That was in real time. I was gonna say right about here, hey, it's going really good, but I didn't want to jinx myself. So all I have to do is roll it back the other way, and hopefully we can pop that spot weld. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to get in there with a little grinder or something to try to weaken it. Oh, it just popped. Nice. I like it when the day starts off easy. All right, all I got to do is get this mess kind of out of my way, and we're going to snap that off. And now it's time to start talking about this. I'm going to grind this real quick off camera. We're just going to smooth all these little buttons out, and that's basically ready to go. There's some seam sealer right here you can see. They pump into that groove. But let me get this cleaned up real quick, and then we're going to move over to the door jamb. Okay, got that ground up nice and clean. Looking really good, basically ready to go. Got a little more brazing to grind out over here. You know, they did a lot of spot brazing on these, and MIG welder and TIG welder does not like it. So, you know, I need to grind that out as best I can. So I got all the way over to here, and I can't do much more because we need to get some of the sheet metal out of the way before I can get that last little spot weld there. So the striker brace comes down, it attaches up there to the post. I don't know if you guys can see that, camera's banging into stuff, but it attaches up there, and then it comes down and it just stops right here. That's it. And it's in the pinch weld right there where this piece, that piece, and the skin all connect together. So it's considerably strong, and the thing is, it's considerably different than the other one. The other brace comes all the way down, it spot welds down here, kind of goes up against the skin. So I think my best bet is to do a butt weld inside the door jamb. Now to do that, I want to make sure that the skin does not change shape. So I don't want to do it out here. I actually want to do it past the little roll right here. So let's take a look at what I've got lined out. And before I did anything, I could tell that this sheet metal moved when I was cutting it right down here. I could feel it. It pinched up against the blade, and then I remeasured. So this one is still measuring the same, but this one and that one are bigger now. That piece right there was actually holding it this way. When I cut it loose, this whole skin kind of moved away. Not by a lot, but it moved. And it just goes to show you guys, this stuff will move on you. That's why I took those measurements and put them in there so we can push that thing back where it belongs when we get it all tacked together. Okay, here's what I'm thinking about the butt weld in the door jamb. So there's a little brazing right here. We'll cut that, and then we'll take and cut all along this line right here. I don't know if you guys can see that Sharpie line I drew all the way down. I haven't decided how to enter it back into the pinch weld, the spot welds down here. Figure that out later. But what this does is this line is just on the outside of that striker brace on the inside. So that holds all this together. So when this is cut, that should stay in place. And I may run a brace from here over to the other side at an angle just to hold this so it doesn't, you know, try to walk in and out. You know, I'll just tack a piece of steel, go down at an angle and tack it just to be extra careful. But what this does is it keeps the panel strong because it's got this stamped area into it. Because, you know, if we cut, we're gonna have to cut that skin over there and it may, you know, try to flatten out or go crazy. So we want to make sure it holds its shape by cutting in such a way that it can stay where it's supposed to. Also, by putting the butt weld right here, it's on the exterior radius. It's just on the flat and the radius. So it's easier to weld, easier to finish. We can grind it and smooth it much easier than if we were trying to go inside right here. And that's a big deal because I've done it inside there like that before. It's a nightmare. It takes 10 times longer to grind and finish, and it never really comes out that good. You end up putting a big old blob of body filler in there and smoothing it out. I'd rather just metal finish this all the way out with very little filler on it. So this, I think, is a good plan. Now, keeping the strength here and keeping the strength here is important to me to make sure everything stays the right shape. So I think this is the way to go. Now, we still have to cut the skin at this spot. And then what we'll do is we'll bring the skin over here and we'll scribe that cut to this door jamb. Then we can make this cut and make the butt weld. Now, I know for sure, now butt welds are easier and better if it's a straight cut. We don't have that option here. So I know this is not going to be a zero gap butt weld. It'll be touching in a lot of places hopefully, but there is going to be some gaps. I'll just deal with them. That's just the way it is when you're dealing with curves like this. I'll do the best I can. I'm not the greatest at it, but I'll take my time and try to make this as nice and tight as possible. I can MIG weld it in, no problem. I can also TIG weld it in, or I can have Dave come over and TIG weld it for me. He's already welded a ton on that Model A, so he's really good at it. But we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. Now is not the time to cut into this. We need to move up to the sail panel and start getting that de-leaded. The filler panel for the trunk area should be here in a couple of days. So I want to start getting all that apart so when it comes in, I know what I need to remove up there. So let's move up to the sail panel and remove some of that paint and get that lead out of there. Okay, so I've got it chalked out. I'm pretty sure this is where the seam is, right in the center of the leading. So we're going to remove the paint back a little bit on each side. We're going to remove it. We're not going to use a propane torch to try to melt the lead out from underneath it. It's better to get the paint all out of the way, and then you can see the leading and then just warm it up and get it to remove it off of there. So we'll get to that in a second. Kind of an unfortunate deal on this car that over here, I don't know if you guys can see, there's a hole right there. Let me zoom in. There's a hole right there in that sail panel, right in that corner. And then there's, of course, that hole we've already seen, right? Well, if both those holes had been on this quarter panel, we'd be able to knock those out just with this repair. But it's on the other side, so we'll have to repair those later. But it would have been nice if they were on this side. But they are on the passenger side, and unfortunately cars sit on streets with a crown and the car leans towards the curb. So the passenger side's on the curb, so all the water and dirt and everything ends up puddling on that side, And so that's why you see them rust out more on the passenger side than the driver's side, at least here in the United States. So let me go ahead and get that paint off of there, and then we'll get all our stuff ready and start melting some of that leading out of there. Okay, the leading on this car is a lot less than it was on the car I got the quarter panel skin off of. So it's about here to here, feathers out. I don't know if you guys can see the line, but if you take like a putty knife, you can slide it on the steel and it slides like glass, and then as soon as you hit the leading, you can feel the resistance, and as soon as you go back. So it goes right along here. So I'm just gonna start kind of melting it and working my way over, and we're going to start off with just a putty knife just to kind of encourage it to flow off, and then we're just going to warm it up and then use a rag to wipe it as smooth as possible. Won't be able to remove it all because it's tinned on there really nicely, but we're going to work this whole area. Then I got to turn around the corner here and work inside where the window is. So let me get the propane torch fired up. I got a fan blowing lightly across it to keep all the fumes away from me, and hopefully this goes pretty smoothly. Now I don't want to get a lot of heat up here. I don't care about this panel, so if I get that a little warm, it's not that big a deal because that panel's coming off. And it doesn't, surprisingly, it doesn't take a lot of heat to get this stuff to start running. It'll just sit there for a while like it's not doing anything, and then you'll see it change color, like right there. There it goes right there. So we're just gonna chase that over till it turns silver. Try to run it right to the edge there. It's pretty warm in the shop right now. It's about 84 degrees or so, so it's not like, you know, it's winter time where this stuff would set right back up immediately. Now I'm going to work an area until it's done, and then I'll move down because it's already warm. I don't want to have to reheat it again. You guys, I don't know if you guys can see, it's just kind of creeping up there. Turn it back into a liquid. Don't try this without gloves on, that's for sure. Okay, there's the ledge right there with a stamped in ledge right there. Okay, now we kind of know where we're at. Kind of start at the top and try to get it to run down over itself. See that edge right there? We don't need this panel, so I'm not too worried about it, you know, hanging around down here. All right, so let's warm that up and wipe it with a rag. Just like that. Now see how clean that is now? Now we can get into those spot welds and get those, we're gonna cut this away and we're gonna try to save this sheet metal as much as possible. So let me, I'm gonna speed through this real quick, super speed it, and we'll bust this out real fast. Okay, just like that. So we can see right here where it's got a lip on it down, and the sail panel goes underneath and then spot welded. So they designed a groove in there to put leading. So we're going to either lead it again, which last time I tried that, it was 20 years ago and it was a debacle, or I will use metal reinforced body filler. Haven't decided yet, but don't have to decide now. The car's gonna go get dipped, so I can worry about that later. So it's looking pretty good. I did get a little too hot right here. You can see it's blue, not the end of the world. It's right up here on this. I can tell it didn't warp, so we're fine. So the next step is for me to clean up some of this lead so it's not laying around, sticking to my shoes, and then we're gonna go on the inside and get that lead out of there as well. Okay guys, I've been studying this for a little bit and I've come up with a game plan. Now you guys can see the spot welds along here, and that spot welds the top skin, the roof, to the sail panel here. The problem is this sail panel actually extends all the way up to about here, and it hits this one, but then it dives in a little bit, and then this panel is actually spot welded to the roof structure panel, not the skin, but the roof structure inside. And I was able to get it loose off the other one because I cut a big chunk off the other car and I worked from the inside out towards it, and I was able to, get all that stuff out of my way. Here, not so easy. I mean, I could probably do it, but I don't think it's worth it because then we're going to be separating the skin from the inner structure up here, and I don't want to mess with that at all. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this back here just below this roll right here where this dives under, where they put all the leading. So I'll cut this back to get this kind of out of the way. Then we're going to cut down really close to the drip edge here, because that little sliver of sheet metal that's spot welded down in there, I need to get that out because I've got that on the other panel. We can slide it back in there and kind of plug weld that back on, and that shouldn't be a problem. But this is the problem because it's spot welded here, and then on the inside it's spot welded. And I don't want to weaken the structure here, and I don't think it gains me anything. I can put a weld down inside here, no problem, and it's going to be covered up anyways, and there's plenty of strength here. We don't have to worry about warpage. So I got to lay out a line, get the grinder out, and then we're just going to cut down and around, and I'll probably just get a chunk out of here just to get it out of my way. Then we can start working on breaking that seam down that line there, and then we're getting very close to being ready for that filler panel on the back. So let me lay this out real quick and do a little cutting, and then we'll see what we got underneath. All right, guys, we are at just about a stopping point here. I got that flange off right there, so we're good. I cut this back a little bit more. I even went ahead and cut where the window sits right here, because I was curious what this brace was looking like, and it actually looks pretty good. So pretty happy about that, because this piece goes underneath here and this kind of rests on top of it, the filler panel. So we got a couple more days before that comes in. So I think we're going to call this a video right here, and hopefully that thing shows up on time. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on finally getting that quarter panel completely off Ruby and getting all the spot welds cut and cleaned up. So we're very close to getting that new quarter panel fitted up. The next step for the car will be the filler panel behind the back window. Hopefully it gets here soon and we can get to work on that. I want to show how to get that off. A lot of GMA bodies rust exactly the same spot, Cutlass, GTO, Le Mans, Chevelles, they all rust out in the exact same spot. So I'll be doing a video on how to get that filler panel off and getting a new one fitted up. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. We'll see you on the next one.